Welcome again to Windrush, remembering the sound system, man them. Again, here we are, we're in Birmingham with one of the original sound systems, Mafia Tone, and Leon from Mafia Tone. How you doing, Leon?
I'm doing fine, yeah man.
Yeah,
Greetings,
man.
welcome, welcome everybody.
It's a pity, whenever I think of Mafia Tone, I think of...
There's the late, great, the legendary Stafford Douglas. And
Yeah, man.
I'm here to really talk about him. So I am just here as a witness and to testify the journey I took with this great man and his sound and the music from back in the day.
Yeah, man, Stafford, man. Yeah. Inspiration in beaver hats, dressing, style, fashion.
Yeah. Well, Stafford was a man very inspirational to a lot of us as youth. Like I said, I've known this man from way back from, even in the 60s, growing up as a child through my parents. And his mom used to live in my parents' house in the early, the late 60s, early 70s. So he's a man I don't really have any memory not knowing, but musically, which is what we're here to discuss. My journey with him started 14.
Yeah, man.
1974.
He was definitely a fashion. Not
yes,
music an icon. He was a fashion icon.
Yes, man.
He set the pace, boy.
Set the pace, yeah.
Okay. Let's kick off with what you remember, Leon.
Okay.
What do you feel was Stafford's inspiration for setting up a sound system?
Believe it or not, there is a few, but one of the main ones from in the 1950s when he was a child was his mother. His mother in St. Catherine in Jamaica, where they're from. His mom used to have an old wind-up gramophone, and Stafford would hand crank it for her, and she used to keep little get-togethers on the lawn of her house in the middle 1950s, 55, 6, and that before she came here. Stafford would sometimes hire it out to the local school, so that entrepreneurness partly came from his mom. And his dad was whose parent was a store owner in Jamaica. So in terms of accounting and mathematics and business acronym, he learned a lot of that from parenting and growing up in Jamaica.
So what year was Mafia Tone set up in the UK?
Mafia Tone first came to light 1973, Homewood Gardens, Brixton, and then he left and came to Birmingham 1974. He played with a sound called Zion Sound, Westminster Road Blues. Back in 1974, he came out officially as Mafia Tone Hi-Fi 1975.
Okay, 1975.
1975.
And how did the name, do you know how the name Mafia Tone came about?
Okay, there's been a few things to my knowledge, but you can quote me on it even. There was a sound called Mafia in Jamaica in the 1970s, just called Mafia. Stafford's nickname, because he used to go around with certain guys in Brixton and in London, he was nicknamed Mafia as well. So I think that the name came from also Tipper Tone, which was also a sound in Jamaica. Because we went for a period where, say, from 74, 75, came into sound systems names before. There were lords and counts and dukes and so forth. So I think the tone, Mafia Tone, came from Tipper Tone. We'd put in things as tone, because you had sounds like Naya Tone and other sounds in Birmingham. So that tone, I believe that's where it derived from.
Whoa. Yeah, I suppose it was like it says Duke and Count and Lord.
Well, in Birmingham we had Lord Colley, Duke Wally, Count Fire, West Bromwich. He came out 1962. Shelley is London, Count Shelley, things like that. Duke Neville, so like Dukes, Counts, and then the Rasta thing come into the fold. 1974-75, Yabba You before that, 72 with Jesus Dread, the album, the film, Harder They Come, 1972, Jose, and that. So that influence into the UK. Yeah, I think it stems from that.
And how many was in the original Mafia Tone? How many people?
Lord, that's a good one. Mafia Tone was like, to me, a movement. For me personally, it was like a way of life, but it was a movement. So you had people like, obviously you got Stafford. I also you cannot mention one of the founding members as well, a guy called Bugsy, who was the main mic man as well as selector. He had people like Caretaker. He came later in 1978. Bongo Tar who is the main mic man for Quaker City, started with Mafia Tone from 1975 when Stafford first come out. He was moving with Mafia Tone before he went to Quaker and became legendary with Quaker City. So maximum respect to Bongo Tar. But a lot of people, the main players, I would say, oh God, I'm going back. I'm 14, 15, 16 at the time. Stafford, Bongo Tar, 75. He left around 78 to Quaker. Ken the Caretaker joined Mafia Tone, 78. He came from Studio City. I also believe he was with a sound in London called Lord Coos from Northwest London in Harlesden. Again, 78. He was a main DJ, Ken the Caretaker. You had Tipper, who was a selector, also known as Selwyn. You had Eggball, 1976. He was like in partnership with Bugsy. Come on, Bugsy, man, slick too, you know. He was a very slick, and to me right now, he's the main number 2 Stafford's right-hand man, Bugsy. Okay. So you had people like that. So, and you had people like Louis, Stammer, what in name? Come on, Leon. Little guy there. He's in Huddersfield now. It's mine. It slipped my mind.
No problem.
But there was a lot of man there, and also one thing I remember about Stafford, when we used to play like local Winston Green Community Centre, I just had quickly. He would leave the back open, 1976, that hot drought summer. And when Stafford's coming down the road, you would run out your house and say, we are going to send me a play Winston Green with Shaka or Coxon and so on. So, and people would run out and just jump in the back. So it was a sound where a lot of guys who started their sound, Cipher and a lot of other youth sound them in the area, would jump in the back of Mafia Tone van as man. And sometimes if you're going out of town, even locals in London and that would help. One time the truck broke down going to Club Norwich when we played Fat Man. I think that was 78 with the they come over from Jamaica, Dillinger dance, which I believe was a one-off. The locals was helping to bring in bucks and things like that. So an array of man. Okay. Too much to mention was with Mafia. With Mafia.
That's interesting. What role did Stafford have? Was he, because sounds have roles. What roles did Mafia Tone have? Selector, blah, blah, blah.
He was selector, stroke, van driver, because also his brother, I'm smiling because it's bringing back memories now, where he had an older brother called Moses, and he was also the driver. Of the van, and he had Rice Sweep, which was another driver. Depends on where we're going. Sometimes Rice Sweep would drive, but then Moses would sometimes go to the local, have a couple of jars, and the van would be all over the place. So sometimes stuff would have to drive back, but mostly he was a selector. He sourced the tunes them as well, but his main role on the sound was playing. He would put the tune on the deck. Some man would select it, find it in the box, pass it to him. He'd put it on the turntable, but he also played a lot of the role of driving the van as well.
Who was what roles like the amps man?
The amps man again. Stafford would be at the high troll tower, wiring, plugging in the bass, using the junction box, running the wire, telling a man where's the wire coming from. So he played that role, stringing it up, selecting. He wasn't so much to look for them. You would put, what Stafford would do sometimes, he have him dub box, and he would take the dubs out and put his, especially at Winston Green Community Centre, he would put the plates like a pile, 2 boxes of transcos, so to speak, on a table and pick from that table and play them. That's how he played a lot. So he did a lot of it, selecting.
Okay. And question: where did he buy his music? How did Mafia Tone get his music? What was it? Where were their real
All right,
source?
then. I'll tell you what make to me.
Before we get to dub plates and that, but
back in them days, lots the sounds of the day, like in London, the Count Shelleys and so forth. When Stafford like being in London, he spent a lot of time around people like the late what's his name, Castro Brown. From Mafia's label, and that he used to go down to, like I said, Castro Brown. He had a lot of was sent also from Randy's. He would have record source. Sometimes you have a relative out there. Stafford was a businessman and had a lot of contacts in the business, and records would be sent to him. I'm talking 73-4 before him bust, because he's stockpiling and getting his thing together, ready for, like I said, before for 75 when it
Okay.
came out as a fully fledged sound.
So you used to get music. You didn't buy records from any record
He
shops?
went to record shops. Yes, there is some famous record shops in Birmingham. Stafford would be seen frequently. Zion, which was on Villa Road at the time, the late Paddy Foot of Zion Sound, who we played from in Westminster at the time, like I said, in 1974. He went to his shop, which was on a road called Villa Road in Handsworth. Also, Black Wax Record Shop down the bottom of Lozells Road. Quaker City also had a shop called Orbit Records on the same side on Lozells Road, going down on the left-hand side. So Stafford also had a record shop himself in 1976 called the Ital Shack, which was a small little unit on a corner of a road called Rosehill Road at the top of Villa Road.
Okay.
So,
And where did any record shops you remember in London he used to frequent?
yes, Dub Vendor. Oh gosh, the other one. There's some other ones. Dub Vendor. He also would go to. You see, Stafford was in the position where he would actually, when it comes into the country, he would go direct to the source. And get it before it would even go to shops. Bonnie Striker Lee would bring rhythms to him and records and stuff like that. So that's the kind of.
Let's go.
Sure.
Let's go to where did Mafia Tone play? And you say he started in London.
He started out in London. He came to Birmingham.
Think of some of the original, some of the first places Mafia Tone would play, like MFM and.
MFM 1980, Mayflower, Manchester 1979. We also played with a sound called Moambasa twice, and I said twice. Once, as everybody, there was a famous dance in London at St. Mark's Hall, and that was July the 1st, 1978, which was a Saturday. Mafia Tone, Moambasa, Shaka, and Coxsone. That was a historic dance, and that was in Battersea in 1978. We also played the Mandem from Moambasa Sound from when they was with Lord David in 1976 at Colthorpe School, Birmingham in 1976. Coxsone, Mafia Tone, Lord David. Another place he played very frequently, that was Winson Green Community Centre, 212 Winson Green Road. He also played a lot at Barnabas. We played at Oaklands a few times, even with Jungleman, if I remember, around 1979 or so, with Jungleman at Oaklands. He also played a lot at Digbeth Civic Hall. He was more or less resident down there with sounds that would visit from London. So quite a few places in Birmingham.
Like
He played Leeds, he played Nottingham, Adlib Club, Marcus Garvey Centre, Leighton Boulevard. He also played places Venn Street, Cleopatra's. He also played at the place in Bradford.
Mayflower, Palm Cove.
Palm Cove.
So
we also played Vengers Youth Centre, Bristol, 1978 down Russelltown Avenue with Safana B from Brixton. And Shaka never turned up at that dance. The reason I remember that one so well is that on the M5, the police pulled me over, opened up the back and says, "What's going on here?" And he goes, "Oh, Disco Road Tech officer." And he said, "What's this youth?" Which is me doing in there. Them time I was 16, 17. And he go, "Oh, Disco Mascot officer." And he said, "Well, he should be in the front." And that's when I started sitting in the front sometime of the van. So that's why I particularly remember that dance.
And there was the big dance at MFM.
MFM was, in fact, and I will say this for the record as well, MFM was actually an arts and craft promotion, because he went into the promotion business the year before with the label Arts and Craft, which he founded in 1979.
And that was the dance that Shaka came to,
Yes.
Coxsone came to.
And they battled it.
And Mafia brought down.
I say it for the record again. People would have it, "Oh, we couldn't keep up." It's the equipment, because you see, Stafford, when it come to music, he was second to none. But the equipment, we were still using 2-piece 600 watt valve and the garage turntable and stuff like that. And if I remember at the dance, we sat in the dark while the other two battled it out, and it was one of the greatest dances ever in history. And Shaka run Fort Augustus, brand new. Coxsone, I forgot what he played, lots of tunes in 1980. which is 40 years ago. When you come to think of it, were being bust. Brilliant dance. But it was a Stafford promoted that dance.
Okay.
He was a promoter.
Well, Leon, you're a vast amount of history.
Well, I'm only going by what I lived.
Yeah, no, and that's good. I mean, because Stafford should be recognised
Yes,
for his
I
input
agree.
into
Yeah.
sound systems in
Yes,
the UK.
it did.
Final question.
Sure.
Does the sound still play now? Or how what you do? I notice we're in your studio
Yes.
and you're always on Facebook putting
Yes.
out some of their musics.
Well, what all, like I said, again for the record, the sound came out 1974-5. By 1980, it stopped playing. He was instrumental in bringing over Ray Symbolic from Jamaica, which is the first Jamaican yard sound to come to the UK. Then he was instrumental in the fact that they used the equipment. After that, the sound became Arts and Craft, which the label from 79, but the sound Arts and Craft 81, 82. Afterwards, he came out of sound completely, went into a final label called Now Generation, which came out in 1985 to 1987, and that was it.
Okay, so the sound was given to Ray Symbolic.
Ray Symbolic took the boxes and the amplifier, the preamp. I think one of his cousins in Nottingham here has got it. A lot, and I say it for the record, a lot of the tune them, a man get 6, a man get 10, a man get 4. It got scattered. I've got what's left, and the difference is what I have done is not so much of everything that Mafia Tone played, but the era, because Coxson's cutting a lot of the same tunes. So is Mombasa, so is Shaka. So I have a lot of roots and steppers on dub and on tape. His wife, Maureen, a lady by Maureen, who he married from back in the day and have children with. She gave some of the tapes to one of his sons, who sadly passed away just a few months ago. His name was also Leon. And then what happened is, when I went to the memorial that his sister kept in Birmingham in the year 2000, I went there and I saw the little boy I used to know and look after, like old Stafford used to know me as a little youth, 29 years later. And I said to him, what happened to all the tapes and that thing? He goes, I've got the tapes, but he says he hasn't got any machines. And then when I said, well, I've got the machines, but I don't have no tape. So then his mom came up with him and brought all the tapes. You can see some of the tapes here and that, quite a lot of tapes. Although there's other sources of tapes, not just Stafford's. And I started to transfer them, put things more in the digital format, and hence why what people see on the page is a tribute to the man, to his music, to the era. It's a tribute. I'm a tribute act, not a sound man. I was box boy. Stafford said, boy, go shop and then Monday night. But I guess people are surprised to see that we're the little box boy there, what him know about sound. Well, sometimes him says what's not revealed unto the wise and prudent comes unto the babe and suckling, and I feel a love and a passion for what I do, and it's just in me. So
Leon, whoa.
I don't know.
I have to come back and get that story again.
Yeah.
But, in memory of Stafford, I feel, what I see on Facebook, you've done a great job keeping him alive.
Yeah,
and I'm surprised to hear that Mafia Tone was only for 5 years.
Only for 5 years. And so what's happened is, again, he came out 74, history. I'm the first man in history to bring it to social media. I did that April 2014, which is exactly, not to the month, but to the year 40 years. And what I've been doing for the past 6 years is just keeping the memory and the history. And like I say, I put things together, I get equipment, I put my money where my mouth is, but knowledge and a love of something I witnessed as a teenager growing up, because he's not getting half the credit he really deserves.
No. And to me, you're doing him proud. What I want to say and wind this down is Windrush definitely remembering a key sound man, remembering Stafford from Mafia Tone. Leon, I want to thank you. I want to thank Birmingham, because like you said, he came from London to Birmingham. Thank you for that. I think there's a wealth of history. There's a a program just in that, and we hopefully we can come back.
Oh, yeah,
so
sure.
again, thank you,
Yeah.
and bless,
man.
bless, bless,
Okay,
bless,
thank you.
bless.